This week on the 77% Street Debate.
Why should the slightly older people be the custodians of that power? What happens when they die? Who is going to lead when they are gone?
We are under a military regime that has intentionally structured young people into a corner they want us.
Any particular random Ugandan you meet on the street and you ask them, who is a leader? You'll be sure the majority are describing Museveni.
The only way you can append that is complete revolution.
Hello there, welcome to the 77% Street Debate. I am Fatu Elika Muloshi. We are coming to you from Kampala, Uganda, and this debate is in partnership with NBS.
And my name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Now what you should know is that Uganda has over 529 members of parliament, but only 5 positions have been designated for the young people. We ask ourselves, are these young people competent enough? Is this a systematic problem? What could be done about this issue?
Edgar, I am so excited because I learned that over 70% of this country's population is under the age of 30. But in reality, the people at the realm of political leadership do not fall under this age bracket. So why are we seeing this much young people showing enthusiasm to apply for leadership positions? And what is the current reality? This is exactly what I want to find out. And I'm going to start with you, Yvonne. You are not only a lawyer, but also a political aspirant. Tell me, why are we seeing this phenomenon of many young people showing interest in leadership?
Well, one, let me correct that. I'm not a political aspirant right now.
Okay.
I was eliminated. I was a presidential contender, and I was hoping to be one of the youngest female contenders in Uganda's history to ever run for presidency. But like the story has had it, we got some constraints with the system and were eliminated before the nomination process. It's why we have an all-male ballot. But we've made sure that the country knows that it's all male. There are no particular young people that are representing the demographic we're representing today. So it's very important they know that.
This is very important that you clear that. Now you are no longer even running. I want you to tell us about your experience. What exactly happened?
We feel the system was not transparent in terms of what the clear criteria for determining who gets nominated is. There is a particular step they require from whoever is contending to collect support from the entire country. There was a lot of security on ground that was sabotaging efforts in terms of stealing supporter forms, in terms of stealing files. So this is a point where I lost all these files, and there were about 5,500 signatures. And when I tried to report this back to the Electoral Commission, what they told me was, you might be the one who is reckless and not able to run a team. They still frustrated us and didn't give us a clear criteria for why they're not endorsing us by telling us that most of these signatures looked forged and that they were not clear.
Are you saying that for you the process was not fair?
It was not fair.
All right, I put a point to that, and I come here to Churchill here. You are yourself a youth leader as well. Do you think that the process, this climate, is very encouraging for young people? Does it promote legitimate competition for young leaders?
The big no, because it is really a tough situation. You have the ambition, you have the zeal, you have the knowledge, you have the support, but you don't have the technical help to continue with doing certain things. So you wouldn't have evidence whatsoever, or you would even be put on a fishing expedition to say that there is really fairness, or the system has been positioned well enough to facilitate for young people to go on and be encouraged to stand for this position.
Thank you for that. I just come quickly to Yusuf here. Yusuf, you are a political researcher, but you are also a political commentator. Talk to me. If we have 70% of the country's population being youth, not represented at the realm of political affairs, what does that say about the country's democratization process?
We live under modern autocracy, and modern autocracies oscillate between tyranny and the things that define a democracy. So what you're witnessing is efforts geared towards sustaining the status quo, not meant to open up for young people, because the unpredictability when all these young people, join the political fray, what will happen? It might destabilize the status quo.
Destabilize the status quo? How?
Because you live under a tyranny, and the tyranny, when it goes to the polls, it's a masquerade. They don't really mean it. So if you invite young people in big numbers, you open the spaces for them to participate freely, it might be so fluid.
All right. A tyranny, he says, Edgar.
Tyranny, but for me, it's in the submissions that they're making, because for one to run for example, the biggest office, you need 100 signatures per district. That is 98 districts. That means we're talking about 9,800 districts. My question is to you, Yusuf. Do these young people have the capacity to collect these signatures? Because according to the Electoral Commission of Uganda, it says they did not have the capacity. Some of the signatures they had were actually false. So are they decrying foul play, or they actually have a reason or a basis?
So if you emerge from somewhere as an individual, as Yvonne did, it becomes difficult for you to go around the country. So you must have been organizing maybe 5 years before with, say, offices in different parts of the country. And then you're able to use your offices to collect those signatures quite easily, right? But under a tyranny, political organizing is very difficult. So when an electoral season comes about, they're like, okay, it's open for everyone to come in. But the criterion is designed for those who have been active for the last 5 years.
All right. Let me just come to you as well, because you're also an NP aspirant. This story that Ivan just shared, does it cut across? Or do we have stories of successful leaders out there?
First of all, it has been highly intentional by the regime to see that they make the electoral processes very expensive but also very violent. How have they made this possible is that young people have been taken as escorts. They have been taken as part of the materials to be used during campaign periods.
So young people have been weaponized in this political landscape.
I think even weaponized is a bit decent. They have been made worse than the word weaponized.
Okay, let me put a point to that and just come to you here. Do you have any successful stories of young leaders out there? Because, Yusuf, if we are saying that the young leaders are not out there at the realm of political affairs, where exactly are they? I want to believe they're somewhere, right?
We have really been deprived of opportunities in the political space, but I want to say one thing, that my generation is a generation that is of talk but also action. We have taken up different spaces of leadership. We have gone into education. We've gone into innovation as well. And we have decided to take up all these spaces of leadership by leading our peers through different ways of how to actually combat the issues that are really disturbing us.
So they're in the activism space. Where else can we find them in the political space?
Part of the problem is that young people are not spotlighted. There are many, many young people doing amazing things. And the problem is the spotlight. Also true is that the space doesn't allow them to actively become visible, right? But we need to acknowledge that the media is unfair to young people.
Okay.
That in those small spaces, they don't make them visible.
All right, they don't make them visible. The space environment is not there. But Edgar, for those young people who really have proven successful and they've really penetrated the system, what is there for them to understand about the political system that they're planning to enter?
Exactly, because that's the question we ask. If you are the young person and you want to enter the system, is it the system that is decrippling them, or is it something that is making sure that they enables them to participate in the politics? And now I come to Yvonne Pambara to just paint a picture for us. You vied and you tried to participate. When you look at our context as a country, as a system, is there something that is crippling the young people, or?
There are so many challenges that young people face. The slightly older elites have now kept majority of what we feel should be positions that could literally be demarcated, or if we are to be fair, these positions should be filled with a mixed level of generational leadership, but they've been kept to these elite few that have managed to accumulate a certain amount of resources, a certain amount of wealth. So because majority of us young people have not yet reached that level of accumulating those resources, we are automatically sidelined. For those who have tried to make it, I mean, at times it's either luck or for some strange reason, either you've done some exceptional community mobilization, modern trend of leadership, you still need resources.
You talk about resources, and that brings me to a question of the youth elections that we are seeing. And we had allegations of billions of shillings that have been invested by the young people. The same young people that you're saying don't have the money. Isn't this a contradiction?
It should be. Where are these young people getting that money from? If you see some of maybe the incumbents ruling party and its young people have been there, they've accumulated wealth in a certain way, which is not honest. We need to be honest about that, because in the particular system we're in right now, it's very hard to accumulate those resources if you're not properly aligned to the Musevenism of politics right now.
I don't know what that Musevenism means, Fatu.
Edgar, I think it's very interesting that she mentioned patronage politics. And for those of you that are hearing that for the first time, it means political leaders giving out favors in exchange for loyalty.
Exactly.
And that brings me to the question of what about those young politicians out there who do not want to side with any strong networks or the big men, so to say?
In Uganda, unlike other countries like Kenya where they can have a financial bill and have Genesis on the streets, we are under a military regime that has intentionally structured young people into a corner they want us. And it is not that we also enjoy it. We have been fighting, but the cost of systems, barricades they put along, first of all, they make sure that they make the politics very violent. You will find young elections and young people are fighting against each other. Okay.
So Fatu, the fighting, I know it. I have covered it here in the country. But let me come to Churchill. And Churchill, you are young, and the older folks are saying you're not mature enough to run the country. What do you think about that?
Maturity is entirely bestowed upon the person. The people that are running the country today started running when they were young. So there is no stereotype whatsoever that is going to make us think and believe that we ourselves are not mature enough to run this country. The system itself is crippled in its own mandate. So I think it is very difficult for us to add a voice to these particular cries because we have 500 members of parliament. Only 1% of parliament is designated to the youth, who make up 73% of the population. I mean, it's really crazy when you think about it.
Cassandra, we have young ladies who are not in parliament, in politics today. Is the system decrippling them, especially when we are at a point where we even have affirmative positions? That means every district in Uganda brings up a female member of parliament, but even up to today, the young women are not being seen in Uganda's politics. What do you comment on that, and how can this be addressed?
Like everyone has been saying here, the system is very broken. We have so many youths that are, and especially females, that are change makers down there. But when they see a gap above and they try to rise up and come and make change, the system is set up such that they never break out, they never break through, and they're never heard. Everyone keeps saying the young people shouldn't come up to lead because we don't know if they'll make mistakes or if they'll destabilize the system. But you can't know that unless you give them a chance to actually try. Why should the slightly older people be the custodians of that power? They should be grooming other people to take the helm when they are done. What happens when they die? What happens to all that power? Who is going to lead when they're gone?
That's a good question. Who's going to lead when they're gone? Maybe lastly, as I come to you, Fatu, is to the senior and expert here, Serunkuma. Let's be honest. When you look at the young people, vis-a-vis or juxtapose them with the older folks, do these young people have the capacity to run the country, but also, do they have something else to offer?
We have a law in this country which requires that for anybody to stand for political office, you have to resign your source of income for 3 months before nomination, and then you run for the campaign for the next 3 months without a job. So the laws in this country are designed to favor those who have been in employment for way longer or who have stolen so much that they can live without income for a longer period. As Ivan said, they've been denied even the small spaces where they need to make a contribution. They're not unable to do that because the system is designed to have them move along, but not in impactful ways.
Move along, but not in impactful ways, Fatu.
I find it to be interesting, really. And they've really touched on very interesting points. He mentioned term limits, but there's also the age limit issue. And I just want to ask in the back, do you think the removal of, the age limit, the term limit, has in a way emboldened these older leaders to even cling on to power? Exactly. Anyone in the back?
Okay,
yes.
Lisa here.
The thing is that they're trying to eliminate the young people, to enter into leadership. But let them give us the opportunity, let them give us the chance, so that they may see what we also have, or what we can do for them.
One says that they have already given you 5 affirmative positions as the young people. What else do you need?
I think Churchill mentioned about that. We only, in the parliament, we have only 1%. That is a very small percentage. If they give us the chance and the opportunity, we can also show to them what we have and what we can do as young leaders. Okay,
we shall move around here to see what the young leaders have to say about this. So, you, the young people, you don't have the capacity. You say that the space is minimum for you. To what extent, or how can this affect you, or how can this be resolved?
The youth have been put behind in this country. It's either by the state or by the allies of the state. It's the agents of neocolonialism that are putting the youth behind for funding the government that is in power. Which government is suffocating the youth
Wow, suffocating them. But Fatu, one thing that you should know is that there is a percentage, an income that is given to young people at every parish in this country. That means 30% of the PDM, which is 100 million. So that means 30%, 30 million per parish for the young people. There is also designated positions in parliament. There is also, in fact, a designated position for the youth in the National Resistance Movement, Central Executive Committee. We ask ourselves, what more do the young people want in Uganda?
And we were talking, young people, what exactly do they need and what do they want? Because if we're saying young people need all these resources, is ambition alone enough to you, Cassandra? What do you think young people also need to bring to the table?
First off, I think ambition is a great place to start, because if they don't have the ambition, then they definitely can't start. They need to have a clear vision and a clear plan in how they're going to accomplish their vision. And I think the biggest thing that the youth need is to be able to stand out and be seen and be heard and communicate clearly how they're going to change this country.
Very well. And let me just come quickly here to Yvonne. Of course, we know there are still bottlenecks that make these things very difficult for young people like yourself. When you talk of you as a female, do you think that gender and your age play a double factor in what hinders your progress?
In terms of mindsets, you realize that majority of Ugandans have a particular picture of what a leader looks like. And I think if you ask them, any particular random Ugandan you meet on the street and you ask them, who is a leader? You'll be shocked the majority are describing Museveni. They're saying a military man who is a certain age and who behaves a certain way.
But can I just ask, really, do you agree to that? Do you agree that this notion of a leader has, for the past years, shaped the perception of what a leader should look like for Ugandans? Anyone?
I would like to go against you on that. You claim that Ugandans, all Ugandans are perceiving a leader as someone who is from the military. We do have people who are beyond that. We have religious leaders. We have people from cultural systems as well. So we cannot say that a leader is generally someone from the military. And I don't think that should be a perceived norm. Let's change the perspective of how we have to look at things like that.
What do you have to say to that?
I see myself at presidential level. I'll correct that. So I feel for the ones who are aspiring for MP, they'll be able to answer ably who they feel the image of a leader is. But I will tell you, Ugandans, even when you're talking to them about what change looks like, majority of them, their mindset goes back to what the Bushwa tactics look like. They assume that if for change to happen in Uganda and it's successful, it has to look like a bush war.
What do you mean by a bush war?
How NRM came into power.
You mean your current president?
Yes.
Let me just come to you, Yusuf. Very interesting revelations there. But if we are talking about how he came into power, the person right now in power, and we're still talking about young people in that realm of politics, we look around the region, for example, where I come from, West Africa, Senegal to be precise, their president right now is around 40 years old. And when you look at their prime minister, it's also within the age bracket of just 50. What is so unique about Uganda's system that makes it so hard for young people to penetrate?
Unlike Senegal, we're still in the bracket of those African countries with octogenarians who have had the privilege of long stay, having come to power in the 1980s. And they've mastered the masquerade of democracy, right? So for young people, it not just be piecemeal legislation. I think Uganda is over-legislated. Uganda will have to undergo a revolution to upend the entire system. The only way a 40-year staying president can win an election is either by stealing it, killing people, or being violent.
Now, I was going to ask, really, is it possible to stay in power for too long without being violent or without employing intimidation tactics?
I actually have to pity the incumbent. Okay. That the only things he has at his disposal to enable him to win this election or to be declared winner is violence is core, bribing is very central, over-centralization of power, that you have the power to fire the EC if it needs be on the day of the election, right? So that immense amount of power, the only way you can append that is complete revolution.
All right. Oh. Edgar, militarized politics, violence, everything out there.
Exactly, and the military also accuses the young people of actually being violent. They say they're the ones who are starting the violence that we are experiencing, especially in elections. And they have actually dubbed them a name, hooligans. To what extent is this true? Let me talk to Maseruka Sadat. Can you paint a picture for us of the violence that we see in elections? Is it a product from you or from the state?
First of all, I want to disabuse the notion that the state has structured violence. It is an element that is built by a certain group that believes that they can have power by all means. The youth in this country are one of the most peaceful people, because if you find the levels of apathy, the levels of unemployment that the young people are facing, the only way out to solve these problems is by actually coming out and express their voices in elections. But there is a group that believes that with use of violence, and they have been able to use it for the last 40 years, they find it a workable solution to subjugate the young people that are agitating for change in this country.
And at this point, I think we've established the problem.
Yes.
We need to now discuss the solution. I read through Uganda's history, and I realized that most of the people that fought for this country's independence were actually young. The likes of Milton were in their 30s. Why can that happen now? Why do you think that young people are not in a position to lead? How can that change right now? Someone has their hand here.
So we'll start with you on the practical solutions.
One of the major challenges we are facing is a challenge of political patronage, where positions are given to people that have been loyal to the political power, to the political party that is in power at the moment. However, I think it would be better to create systems that empower and educate the young people in preparation to take up leadership roles later.
First of all, empower the young people themselves. Let me come to you. Do we change something in our policy? Do we change the government framework of doing things? What do we do if we are to enable young people's voices be heard, especially in the leadership of this country?
There are two terrible assumptions in this conversation. The first assumption is that Uganda is a democracy, right? I think it's a terrible assumption. I think palpable even in this conversation, we feel like somehow things can be better somehow because, systems can be fixed. Now, the second assumption, which is also very problematic, is that our problems are technical, that we are missing technical input, that the people there don't know the right thing, so we're trying to give it to them. That's also a dangerous assumption. Our problems are not technical, and Uganda is not a democracy. So to fix what is not technical, our problems are political. You need to answer the political question first. We need to overcome a presidency which is sworn on long stay. I began with this conversation and I said, modern autocracies learned so much from the autocracies that came before them. They don't suspend the constitution. They don't govern us through decree. They have a big and noisy parliament. They have a supposedly free press. But through those channels, they reproduce themselves. They carry on forever.
Okay.
So our problem is not technical.
It's like you're saying we're gone. It's beyond redemption. Is that what you're trying to assert? Or what practical solution then?
Diagnosis has to be precise. These young people, there's not a shortage of good opinion on what needs to be done. No. The problem is the political will, which needs a revolution to change.
Political will, that's a long stride to go. But Yvonne, what do we do then to enable young people?
Change the top leadership of this country. He has mentioned it. Because again, we're also going to give you technical solutions at the same time. We have established that because of the centralized nature of power, that majority of the institutions have failed to work, that, most of these positions are tokenized, there's so much patronage. So at the end of the day, then what happens if we know that the problem is coming from one particular area and it's what we need to change? How then we give you solutions that continue to be technical, like he has said, and yet that the one solution lies in terms of changing what the top structure is.
So when Museveni is gone, hypothetically, that means Uganda will become, US or, I don't know.
Change is not no, change is not just change. We need a capable leader who knows that trust has to go back into institutions that work for all.
In Africa, they say that the fish rots from the head. So if you were to solve the head, that means you'll have a good fish. But I don't know how, to what extent that will work in Uganda's context. Patrick.
Yes, I mean, great wisdom there, Edgar. But he was telling me, Churchill, that he has something to say. And just quite quickly, tell us, what exactly would it take? What reforms would you need to ensure a fair playing ground for every single person in the political space?
First of all, I think it's not individual based. It is not about the particular person that is in the power. I think the youth have been brought up in a way that they believe you must have something to offer plus your wisdom. They don't believe in just your wisdom. Whatever these people are saying will be looked at as nonsense tomorrow. If you go to the public and be like, hey, my name is Churchill Sentamu, I want to be the president. I believe our problem is institutions. They'll be like, yes, okay, but I don't have food at my home. Yeah, the rate at which the government financializes the election is very, very detrimenting. It is only Uganda and a few other countries that have actually where the economy is in imbalance after election, because there's too much money that is used in the mobilization of a certain political party, or because now, for example,
So election financing is not fair. Is that what you're saying?
it has never been. Monetization of politics is not the solution. Case in point, an opponent of mine looked at me as a very big threat that he had to ask the Electoral Commission, pay certain people to phrase that have forged nomination signatures.
So in one sentence, what will it take going forward?
Going forward, I believe it is institutionalization. Institutional governance has got to be really pinpoint. Public corporations have got to step up. I mean, even when you decide to change government, yes, but even the idea of governance itself, the type of governance we receive has got to be to the level or in line with what we want to achieve.
Edgar.
I'm here, Cassandra.
I would say that this has been a very eye-opening debate for me. What do you think right now?
It's eye-opening, but it also speaks of the realities that we experience in Uganda or this part of Africa, that we still have challenges in the system itself. And one thing that is confirmed is that the older folks, the people who make up only 2% of Uganda's population, continue to run the country. That means the 98%, I don't know what we do, Fatu.
Well, I think for me, I have really learned a lot today. And from what I see, I can definitely tell with confidence that Uganda's youth has what it takes to run the country. But whether really the system is ready for that, that depends on what Uganda wants to build henceforth. But I've been Fatu Elika Muloshi from Deutsche Welle.
And Edgar Matthew Karhanga from NBS TV.
Thank you so much for watching. Bye.